5.14.
Yeah, so this is our professional services agreement with West Coast Code Consultants, who do a significant amount of our work in our building and planning department in terms of approving and doing plan checks and inspections and all kinds of work. And I understand the value of having consultants and a contract so that as things ebb and flow, we're able to cover all of the demands without having to provide staff who go up and down. It's nice to have that. My question comes down to perhaps the fee study that we're going to be looking at over the next year. We discussed that in terms of fees. As I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, all of the plan check fees, there's a percentage of the valuation of a project that determines what the fees are. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so when you have a large, multi-million-dollar project, the plan check fees are a certain amount, and it doesn't necessarily correspond, although it might, to the actual amount of time it takes to do that work. It's more based on the valuation of the project.
Well, yes, but it's generally a pretty direct correlation. I mean, a big multi-million-dollar project takes a lot more work to review than a $100,000 project does.
Okay.
That's typical. Yeah. I mean, that's the way most cities set their building permit fees, is by construction valuation.
Okay. And then, but the consultants, their effective hourly rate is invisible for us because we're paying them a percentage of the valuation fee that we collect.
That's right.
So I find that a little bit confusing and would like to have a sense of whether we think that that's a fair, I mean, I understand this is done everywhere, but when one thing is based on the amount that a project's worth and something else is an hourly rate, and they don't necessarily correspond exactly.
The plan check amount that the WC3 gets is a proportion. I should say that the there's plan check fees and there's building permit fees. The plan check comes first, and then the building permit gets issued, and you pay a fee for that, which covers inspection costs. Mm-hmm. But for plan checking, we assume that they're going to get it right after 2 times. Normally, there's a lot of comments on the first review. No matter how good the architect and engineer are, there's always going to be a whole lot of comments just to make sure that it complies with the building code. But after they've gotten the city's comments and they've gone back and made the revisions and then made a resubmittal, hopefully there won't be very many comments the second time, if any. So there will be a second round of plan check, but hopefully the comments will be minimal. That's what the plan check fee covers. If, for whatever reason, they don't get it right the second time and there has to be a third round of plan check or a fourth round of plan check, then the plan check fee does not cover that. And that's when the hourly fees kick in.
Oh, okay.
So we start to charge them by the hour if they have to go beyond 2 rounds of plan check.
Okay. So in those first 2 rounds of plan check, do we have any sense of what the compensation is for the consultant at an hourly rate?
I'd have to go back and look at the invoices. I don't believe they give it to us on an hourly rate. It's just a percentage of the plan check.
Okay. Well, I just want to understand that better so that I think, the public, I understand it's not taxpayer money. It comes directly from, and it's paid for with cost recovery from the projects themselves. But I just wanted to have a better handle of that, and I appreciate your explanation as well.
Ruth?
Mike, my comment on this is that the resolution before us is asking for a 2-year agreement, and I would like to make a motion that we approve a resolution for continued services for a year, and before we go into year 2, we get a real cost-benefit analysis. So I don't know if my colleagues would like to go with 1 year.
I would support that.
I agree. I wasn't clear why we were doing a 2-year contract rather than a 1-year contract, because it's a significant amount. There's another.
We tie it to the budget, You know, we do a 2-year budget, and when we do our budget projections every 2 years, obviously the budgets are for individual fiscal years, but we do them 2 years at a time, as you know. And for the planning and building department, a big chunk of that budget in the building division is the WC3 part of the contract. So we have to project it out for 2 years when we do the budget, and that's based on what we anticipate the contract is going to be. So it's just easier to peg the contract to the 2-year budget. So that's how we do it. And also, as I think you got the explanation that from Vic Gonzales that the city manager forwarded to you, that sometimes, in fact, not infrequently, projects will span fiscal years. And so, I mean, I know that's going to happen whenever we do a new contract, but it's easier if we keep that kind of breaking between fiscal years to a minimum by doing the contract 2 years at a time rather than 1 year at a time.
Did you want to speak on this item, Ken?
I've never really understood why this isn't an in-house position. I mean, you have the same people that have been there 20 years, and I don't understand why it's a contract, why it needs to be contracted out, and why those employees are getting a percentage. It's like they're in business with us, and I don't know that that's the right way to do it. So I just had those questions. Thank you.
So I made a motion to amend the resolution for 1 year. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
And may I ask a clarification? So what staff is proposing is a 2-year contract for $1,565,000.
Half of that.
Is that, does your motion?
Cut it in half.
Is that in half? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Reduce the amount as well as the.
And I'd just
the
like to add,
contract.
go ahead if you want to respond to that.
No, I just had a clarifying question.
Okay.
So, shall I go
Yeah,
ahead?
go ahead, Charlie.
What is the cost-benefit analysis that you're looking for?
Do you want other bids? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I've had a communication with Sabrina, so I think she has a clear idea what I'm looking for.
All right.
Well, wait, I don't know what you're
Explain it?
looking
Yeah,
for.
I don't know what you're.
It's nice Sabrina knows, but it would be nice if the public and the council would know too. What are you looking for?
Sabrina, would you care to take this?
Sure. And you correct me if I interpreted it wrong, but looking at the cost of performing these services in-house versus the contract, and it's not just the cost to the city, but kind of to your point, which is incorporating in the fees and the cost to the customer, and how that may compare. So we could look at trying to attach the in-house staff cost in comparison to the contract fee.
Right.
And the revenue that would be associated with that. Right now, 75% of the revenue is going to the consultant. In theory, 100% of that would be coming into the city. And would that offset the in-house costs? And is there a hybrid that may make sense as well? So we can bring all of that.
Thank you.
If we were to reduce costs, that would have to go back to the developers and the development projects, I assume, because it's a cost recovery, or is it, I mean, we can't make a profit off of this kind of work,
No.
right?
But you would have a cost of staff to figure.
Right.
Right, but the fee study that you alluded to earlier,
Yeah.
that would be taken on by the finance department. That would be like a comprehensive fee study of all of the city's fees, not just building fees and planning fees, but I mean, I assume community services and everything else. And in those fee studies, often what gets factored in is all of the city overhead that has to be covered, the cost of the lights, the cost of the telephones, the cost of, staffing council meetings, all those kind of things that the city has to pay for somehow get factored into this magic formula. So it's not clear that fees would necessarily be reduced as a result of that or as a result of this. And if I could just make one other comment. We have 3 people in the building division, 3 city staff. We have the chief building official, we have a building permit technician, plan checker, and 1 building inspector. WC3 provides us with 1 or more additional building inspectors. They also provide plan check engineers and office support staff. The office support staff is for when our building permit technician is on vacation or sick or something. So it's just kind of like almost like calling in a temp. When the one and only person you have to staff the front counter is not there, you have to have somebody staffing. So we have basically a temp from WC3 that comes and does that. So I'm not sure how you would make that a city staff person, because we already have that city staff person. The engineer, they're very highly qualified. It's mostly Guy in Centeratna, but he also has other people on his staff that are also very highly qualified structural engineers. However, we don't have enough work to keep that position busy full time. He's here in our office. He or one of his engineers is in our office 2 days a week, and then they have their services they provide in their San Ramon headquarters. So maybe 3 days a week. It would be very difficult, I think, for us to find a person with that level of credentials that would be willing to take on a part-time position in, a city like this. So that'd be a little bit problematic. The building inspectors from WC3, they are full-time. And it would make the most sense if we were to, shift to a staff model instead of a consultant model to make it the building inspector positions. So currently we have 2 building inspectors from WC3 and then 1 in-house. We had in fact proposed several years ago to add a building inspector to staff, and we actually had that position. And you may recall that several years ago the city council cut that position in part of the, as one of our budget cutting cycles. So that position, although it was authorized, it never got filled. So to me, that's the most feasible and realistic thing would be to add another building inspector to the staff. However, I wouldn't add more than 1, because I don't think we want to have more than 2 building inspectors on staff, because when you get to the lean times and you don't have a lot of building inspections, you don't want to have to lay somebody off. So having the inspectors coming from WC3 gives us the flexibility to add or reduce as necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad you addressed that. I mean, that was my question and concern as well, is why aren't we doing this in-house? I mean, at $65,000 per month, as the contract works out, it's hard to believe that some of this work, and you projected that over the next 2 years we expect to have a lot of work again. So looking at that, I'm glad that we discussed this and see what.
5 or 10 years down the road, we may go back down again.
That's right.
That's
we
true.
might.
We might. Okay, we have a motion and a second to change the term of the contract to 1 year and reduce it by 50%. Should we take a roll call vote on that? Yeah.
Roll call.
Let's go ahead.
Councilmember Atkin?
Really?
I'm sorry.
You want to start with me?
No, I didn't mean to. Sorry. I don't have my cheat sheet with me. No, I can do it. Councilmember Davis.
No.
Councilmember West.
Yes.
And Councilmember Brinkman is excused. Vice Mayor Atkin.
Aye.
And Mayor Asher.
Aye. Okay.